welcome everybody. This is the OSU Bucknuts podcast. This is Corey, your host. I'm on with my good friend Keith, biggest bucknut that I know. How you doing, Keith?
I'm doing well. I'm making my weekly Friday trek from Indianapolis, home of former Buckeye great Greg Oden, back to Nashville. But I'm excited to talk Buckeyes today.
Man, that's a trek. That's for your job, right?
Yes. I work out here every week temporarily.
Oh my goodness, man! I don't know if I could do that, but if the money's good, so it is what it is. So today we're going to be talking about OSU Hoops. I mean, Keith and I can talk about football all day long, don't get us wrong, but we're also excited about OSU Hoops with the change. But before we get to the change, Keith, you're just as big a fan as I am, if not bigger. We talk about this a lot anyway, off the air. How do you feel about Thad Matta? I mean, Thad Matta obviously got fired in June. But what is, and obviously a lot of us felt it was time. But what is your? Let me ask you, what is your opinion of Matta overall?
I mean, I honestly think Thad Matta is the best coach to ever coach at Ohio State, in my opinion. The things he's done for that program when it comes to recruiting and winning, and I mean, look what he's done. I mean, how many Final Fours we've been to? We've been to a national championship because of him. Countless Elite Eights and Sweet 16. So I mean, I've always loved that, but like you said, it was time for a change, and it wasn't easy seeing him go. But I mean, it just had to happen, I think.
What do you think went wrong for Thad in the last few years?
Well, I think his health was declining, and that was number one. I don't think he wanted to put in the time or even was capable of putting in the time to travel around and recruit like he once did, which, I mean, obviously showed. I know we had that class come in with Mikey Mitchell and Daniel Giddens and KJ Harris, but, those guys ended up not being good fits at all. But I just think his health declining just really put the program down the drain, and I feel for the guy, but I think a change should have been made maybe a little earlier. That's just my perspective.
I agree.
When you start seeing your program that was so high for so long start to fall like that, I think something should have been done before that.
I completely agree with you. I thought it should have been done probably April, maybe the latest April, because we missed the NIT, and it was kind of obvious the program was on the way down. And I love that. I agree with you. I think he's the best coach in Ohio State history. I think Holtmann's got some big shoes to fill. But the thing about it is that you just can't have a program that's missing the NIT when the program's as prestigious as Ohio State,
Oh, I mean, the not invited tournament. And if you're not invited to the not invited tournament, there's an issue. Especially with a program like Ohio State.
And it's not even just that. I think in the January term to about April, May, we were losing out on several recruiting battles, then several JUCO battles. We were trying to get kids in here to help, and they were going elsewhere instead of Ohio State. And I think you just start to see the writing on the wall that there isn't much of a future for the program. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. And the thing about it is, 3 or 4 years ago, Thad Matta would have won those recruiting battles. And when we started seeing him miss on guys like that, on guys he would have normally got, it became a problem. And especially missing on that should be Ohio State's, bread and butter should be right in their backyard. If you're missing on big-time Ohio guys, that's an issue. And I know you got to compete with Tom Izzo for those guys, but he was for a really long time. I mean, he was beating Tom Izzo out on guys. So, pains me to think about.
Yeah, I'll give Matt a credit for getting Caleb Wesson. That was big. That's going to be big for us upcoming this season, obviously. So it wasn't a total loss, but it was just not enough to overcome the trajectory of the program.
Exactly.
But Gene Smith worked quick. It looked like a cluster for a while, but he worked quick, and we got our man and the former Butler head coach, Chris Holtmann. What's your initial reaction when Chris Holtmann was hired? This is a month and a half ago, or almost 2 months now. But what was your initial reaction?
I didn't know a ton about him. I think we had discussed that. I didn't know a lot about him. I knew that Butler was a good program, and I knew he'd been there for a few years. And I immediately went into the lab and started researching, what we were getting and with this guy. And I mean, his track record is great. I think he's quality something along the lines of 11-4 versus top 10 teams while he was at Butler, which is astonishing, especially for a program who doesn't recruit, like Kentucky or Michigan State and teams like that. So, I mean, after I did a little bit of research, I kind of just fell in love with the guy, to be honest.
Yeah. I agree with you. I actually, when he was one of my top 4, but he was actually 4th on my list. And then the more I researched him, he became higher and higher and higher. And I thought, man, what a home run hire. And on top of that, as far as recruiting goes, you're right. Butler does not recruit that well necessarily, but it's still a great program. I'm not trashing the program, but they don't. He got the highest rated recruiting class in Butler history with a number 34 class, I think it was. One of those being one of the top players in Ohio, and Kyle Young was pretty much the stalwart of that class. And since he's been hired, that's been the first order of business, was getting Kyle Young to come back to Ohio State, because he was heavily considering Ohio State before before he decided to go with Holtmann at Butler, and it just seemed like a perfect fit for him. How big was it to get Kyle Young, especially since he can play this season?
Kyle Young was huge, and I'm not going to say I wasn't expecting it, but I wasn't, putting all my eggs in one basket on him.
Yeah.
But after watching his tape and just seeing what the kid can do, and he's a versatile forward. You know what I mean? He can play multiple positions, which is big, especially when you have a roster that's lacking bodies like Ohio State is. I mean, this kid can. I mean, I'm assuming he could even play the 2 in situations where we were down a couple guys. So I mean, it was huge to get him, especially now. He can come in immediately, play, and make an impact. And I think he will make an impact as a freshman.
Yeah, I think he's going to be the 6th or 7th man off the bench, to be honest with you. Him and Wesson might be the first 2 off the bench, because I think you're right. I think Kyle Young, he's 4-star forward, small forward out of Ohio, but he can play the 4, and he can also play the 2. I think you're right about that, because his length and his strength at that position will actually be an asset. And let's be honest, with our lack of bodies, Holtmann's going to have to get pretty creative with the lineups this year.
Yeah, he really will. I mean, what are we at scholarship or bodies wise on the team right now?
I think it's 9 or 10. It's 9 or 10 now.
Oof. Yeah, he's going to have to get extremely creative. But we have a lot of talent on that team now. I mean, you look at the roster a couple months ago to now. Before Holtmann was there to now. I mean, it's a lot different. I mean, it looks a lot better than it did.
I'm interested to see guys like Sean Tate and Bates-Diop. I'm saying his name wrong. I apologize. I can never get his name right for some reason. I really struggle with different names. But Bates-Diop, I'm really interested to see their development underneath Holtmann. Even though Tate's going to have a single year, but they're talented guys. But that's the thing is with Matta last few years, we'd get talented guys, and they didn't seem to get better. As the years went on, they just seemed to kind of stalemate, stay the same. So that'll be I think that'll be the first thing I notice with Holtmann is how much better are the players getting, with his tutelage.
Well, you got to look at guys like Mark Loving, who from his freshman year got worse every single year. I mean, I was never more disappointed in a player as highly recruited as he was, and I mean, it just seemed like he was out of shape. That he didn't care. His body never changed throughout his entire career at Ohio State. So obviously there was no development going on. And when it comes to Keita and Deshaun, I definitely think Keita was really highly recruited, and he's not a bad player, but he's had the injury bug for a while. So if he could stay healthy, the guy capable of being maybe second team All Big Ten type player. 16 and 10 kind of guy.
I kind of agree with that. I think he's got length, he's got quickness, he can be a scorer. I'm actually excited for him, especially since he's got 2 more years of eligibility, and I think he will come back probably after this year as well, which will be a huge help for 2019 because I'm a little bit worried about the depth of 2019 as well. But Holtmann is alleviating that problem because you and I were talking about it. We were waiting for that first Buckeye basketball boom to go down after Kyle Young. And the first one was Indiana forward, who's going to be playing two guard for Ohio State at 6'5", is Musa Jallow. He was enthralled with Ohio State for quite a while, so this wasn't just a complete Holtmann special, I would say. But that being said, Holtmann did reel him in and get him to reclassify for 2017. I obviously, this is an obvious question, but I'm going to go ahead and let you answer it anyway. How big is that for this year?
Musa Jallow is one of my favorite players in the class because, I mean, the guy has this relentless attitude, and he's such a hard-working player. He kind of reminds me of a Jason Tate, except I think he's more skilled than Jason is. I think he can shoot the ball a little bit better. I think he can handle a little bit better. He's good at going to the rim, driving to the rim. So, I mean, Musa's a big part of this program now, and I think he's just going to be one of those 4-year guys, team captain type players who makes a major impact.
You know what? I agree with you. And the interesting thing about Musa is he actually was lighting it up during him. I got to say this real quick, though. 247 Sports dropped the ratings of all the players that have committed to us already. But that's what they do with Ohio State players. Yeah, we have to get used to that. 5-star center out of New York. All of a sudden, he's a 3-star, But, yeah, Musa Jallow, he's – what I noticed about him in the summer tournaments is he was getting – They kept talking about his effort plays, like 19 points and 17 rebounds. I mean, 17 rebounds at 6'5", that's just effort. I don't care who you are. That's just effort at that point.
That's purely effort. I mean, it's getting yourself in good position and, that's wanting to win. I mean, you go get the ball. After you take a shot, you go chase a shot. You know what I mean? It's what you got to do if you want to win games. So he seems like he's a real type of team player type guy.
Oh, yeah, and his quotes are amazing when he talks about, even if I have an off night shooting, I could still play great defense. And I thought to myself, these are the kind of kids that are the building blocks of rebuilding a brand, wouldn't you say?
Well, yeah, especially when Holtman's whole thing is defense. I mean, this guy is going to be all over these kids about playing defense, hands up, you know what I mean, moving your feet. And that's how you set up your offense, and that's how you get that, run and gun game going. That's what you need. You need good defense, and, you need to attack the offense as opposed to, the previous Ohio State teams kind of just sit back. And I can't tell you how many times I sat there and watched open threes go up against bottom teams, and somebody just standing there watching them shoot the ball and watching it go in. It's incredible that was even allowed to happen.
Yeah, I think that's one of my most exciting things about having Holtmann is I read up on his defensive coaching ability, and every team that he's ever coached on, whether it was an assistant coach or a pro or the head coach, he actually that team was one of the league leaders in the NCAA with defending the 3-point line, and I was like, thank God! I am so sick of watching teams like who killed us last year? It was Marshall killing us with 3-pointers. It's like, come on, why can't we guard Marshall?
UCLA killed us with threes.
Oh, yeah. I think Virginia ended up hitting some threes on us. It was just kind of like, we got to.
We should have won that game. Playing defense, we would have won that game.
Exactly. If I felt like for the first time in a while against Virginia, we had some offense going. But at the same time, I just thought to myself, well, why can't we ever guard the 3? This has been plaguing the team for years. So when Holtmann was hired and I saw that in his bio, I thought, oh, my gosh, I'll be so happy to not get slaughtered by 3-point. And those things just take the air out of your sail when you're trying to make a run.
Oh, yeah.
So I was happy to read that, but and he got the 2017 recruiting class for Ohio State to be ranked, I think, first or second in the Big Ten after picking up Kyle Young and adding Musa Jallow. I mean, he did that in a month.
And that's just foreshadowing to what's going to happen when he's got an entire year to focus on getting you guys in here. I mean, if he can do that in a month, I mean, we can expect perennial top 15 classes at minimum every single year.
Which would be huge for the program to sustain success, which Matt has struggled with the last few years. Again, I agree with you. It's due to his health more than anything. But he also got the 2018 class started off because we unfortunately had some losses. We did have a class, but it's all decommitted at this point. But he did get to start off with a really good shooting guard, Torrance Watson out of Missouri. Man, Ohio State's been rating that state for talent for the last few years. And now we're doing it on the basketball end. And what do you think about Torrance Watson? I'm actually pretty impressed with the kid.
I'm really impressed with Torrance Watson, and it blows my mind that his ratings dropped in on 247's rankings because, I mean, watching highlights of this kid, he's so smooth. I mean, he can shoot, he can dribble, he can run the point. He plays defense. I mean, really, he seems like a really technically skilled guard to me.
He seems like a scorer that we really need. Like that kid, like I need a 3-pointer now, and he can go get it.
Well, and I think to be successful, if you don't have 5 guys all making a contribution on offense, you got to have one guy who put up 18 to 23 points a game and, be that superstar scorer. And Ohio State hasn't had that since, D'Angelo Russell was in town.
Yeah, I agree. And and then before D'Angelo Russell was Jared Solinger, so it's not. It hasn't been that prevalent in Ohio State history recently. And when I saw Watson's game film, I noticed a kid who could create his own shot and he could stop on a dime off the dribble and drain a 3 anywhere on the court.
It's beautiful the way he stops like that, and he puts that little fadeaway up right in the eye of the defender. I mean, and I also watched a video where he hustles back on a breakaway and he jumps up about 6 feet in the air and slots the ball from one of the guards that was trying to lay it in. It's like, man, not only can the kid score and is he technically gifted, but he hustles, and that's the type of guy you need in a program.
Yeah, I was extremely excited when he committed. The funny part about his commitment was we weren't even in his top 8 2 months ago. And then he announced immediately on Twitter, hey, I'm going to commit tonight around 10 o'clock. It was 10 o'clock my time, or your time is what, anyway. And he's in Missouri, so it was probably, 8 over there.
Yeah.
But I remember he was saying, oh, I'm going to commit tonight. And I posted this to you personally. I said, gosh darn it. I said, I used more colorful language on that, I'll be honest. But gosh, I'm going to do for the show. I'll say, gosh darn it, Keith, we're probably not going to get him. And you were like, yeah, I know, man. It's probably going to be Missouri. And then all of a sudden a friend of ours messaged us and said, boom, like the trademark Mark Pantone, boom. And I was like, you're kidding me. He committed to Ohio State? And okay, I didn't want to call Musa Jallow a complete Holtmann special, although it was big. But this Watson is a Holtmann special. Let's be honest.
He really is. He can do it all, and you're really lacking in the guard department. And to have him come in next year, and he's the type of player that I think is talented enough to play immediately when he comes in. And I think the roster will be in a little bit better shape next year, obviously, but I still think he's talented enough to play and have an impact scoring the basketball immediately. Yeah,
I could see 10 minutes a game for him immediately. That kind of player easily. If he's not even getting more than that, who knows what the guard situation will be next year. That being said, because I don't know because Cam Williams is going to be gone for this year, and he's going to be our primary scorer in the guard. So you might need Watson to kind of fill in that void a little bit to become a scorer.
I agree. I'm not the biggest Cam Williams fan. I like some of the things he does, and he's a little too inconsistent. But I also, with that mod, I don't think he got a good enough chance to really score the basketball, and I don't think he got enough playing time. But when he's on, man, Cam is a sharpshooter, so it'll be exciting to see what he does with Holtmann.
I'll be honest with you. I'm giving everybody a clean slate right now because I felt like Matta was not the best at developing players. So I'm like, okay, you guys got a new coach who's big on development. He had to be at Butler. You're big on development, big on offensive sets, getting people in good positions to score and to do the things they need to do to win the ball game. So now I'm like, everybody who I was down on last year, you have a clean slate with me as a fan because I think you can do good things with this coach. That's how I feel about it.
Well, exactly, and I'm interested to see what this team can do when they're in shape. What I mean? When's the last time you see the Ohio State basketball team in shape?
It's funny. They keep trying to say they are every year, but then you see them in the games and they're getting tired. They look a little pudgy at times, and other than Bates-Diop, everybody else to me looked a little pudgy at times. And I got to be honest with you.
Chad's been doing the out of shape thing for a while, and it seems like a lot of Ohio State prospects when they get tested by the NBA is that body fat fiasco. So
you're absolutely right. I think LaQuinton Ross was one of the biggest names of that. He just showed up to camp really out of shape, but
Deshaun Thomas as well.
Yeah, Thomas. I think Russell even did, but it didn't hurt his draft stock too much, though, obviously. But actually, I'm glad you brought that up because I was about to get into that. Holtmann's doing something with the program that maybe a lot of fans don't see it, but you and I get excited with this kind of stuff. I know a lot of fans for a while they were upset about the strength and conditioning program. Holtmann goes out and hires a guy, Quadrian Jackson, with a resume a mile long. He even worked with pro teams to be the strength and conditioning coach, not for the staff, for just the basketball program. Because remember, Pearson was like tennis and lacrosse as well as basketball.
Yeah.
And we always wanted it to focus on basketball. Basketball's too big of a sport not to focus on. And so I got to be honest, how excited were you when you heard that Quadrian was getting not recruited, but was getting hired to be just the strength and conditioning just for basketball?
Well, it's crazy to think that a program as big as Ohio State basketball is, you don't have a strength and conditioning coach. And to be honest with you, I didn't know that until this year. And it kind of ticked me off when I had heard about it. So I spent many nights praying that, Coach Holtmann would take care of that. And then when we got Jackson, the first thing I see is that he's worked with the Indianapolis Colts, and I'm ecstatic about it. So, yeah, I mean, it was a huge, huge hire to get somebody in there to solely focus on the basketball team, which we definitely needed.
That also tells me that I'll give Gene Smith some credit because I've railed on him at times. He obviously gave Holtmann the blank check and said, go ahead, get whatever you need for the program.
Yeah, including a nutritionalist, right?
Yeah, they got a nutritionist. Her name is Jill, I believe. I may have that wrong. I haven't heard an official name, but we all heard Micah Potter talking about her a little bit. And I got to be honest, that's huge. To first of all, basketball. Anybody who's ever played it, I know you have, Keith. I have. Nutrition is arguably more important in basketball than it is even in football in some ways because the energy you exert on the court is incredible. And I just think to myself, how did we not control the diets of these kids? I mean, no wonder they're getting tired all the time, probably eating at Thurman's all the time instead of just
yeah, exactly.
Instead of getting an actual proper diet from a nutritionist that understands what a basketball player needs.
And to think, I would like to look back, take it back and if we could add a nutritionalist to the previous teams with Mata and have a strength and conditioning coach solely for the team, I wonder how much of a difference that would have made. And I think it really would have. I honestly think you could have seen a few more wins just because the players have been eating right and were in shape enough to play the entire game and play hard.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think Micah Potter's press conference or whatever you want to call it went to the heart of the matter, and he was blatantly pretty candid and honest with everything when he says last year during games he would feel dizzy during the game. He'd feel awful. And of course a lot of that has to do with diet and conditioning. Now he's talking about how they've never felt better. But it goes even further than that. If you're recruiting a kid, how can you possibly tell them, hey, we're going to develop you into an NBA player if you don't have these types of things in place already?
Well, you can't. And I mean, especially with a guy like Micah Potter, the guy's 7 foot tall. He needs the right nutrition to be able to sustain playing at a high level, for an entire game. That's a big boy. He needs the right fuel in him.
Exactly. That's what you said it perfectly. That's the word, fuel. Food is supposed to be fuel for athletics. And on top of that, they also have to keep they got to keep their grades up on top of that. Imagine being exhausted from basketball practice, and now you can't even do your homework because you don't have the right fuel keeping you energetic. That's just common sense.
Eating a cheeseburger from Thurman's isn't going to help. So.
No. Once in a while it's okay, but if it's your diet, I mean, my goodness. I mean, that's what I think Quadrian Jackson and this nutritionist are going to be, is the Coach Mick of the basketball program, because early returns so far are the players love Jackson.
And we all know the returns from Coach Mick on the football side.
Oh, my gosh.
Anything like that is going to be a success.
They're indisputable. I mean, I don't know how many fans have said, open the checkbook, give him whatever he wants.
I love him so much.
If he wants as much as Meyer makes, go ahead and give it to him.
I would have no issue for Steve paying him over $1 million a year, honestly. That's how crucial he is to that program.
It's, you know what? That's probably the second most important part of any football program is, besides the head coach, is the strength and conditioning program.
Yes, sir. I 100% agree with you there.
So, and
definitely.
Oh, go ahead.
We got somebody on the basketball side.
Oh yeah, exactly. I agree with you completely. And on top of that, let's talk about one more thing before I want to ask you about the expectations of Coach Holtmann. What do you think about the social media presence all the coaches are having?
I didn't know that Ohio State Hoops had a Twitter until about a month ago. So if that tells you anything, yeah, it's incredible, man. It gets the fans excited, and we haven't had that in a long time. I mean, you know, you get on Ohio State's Twitter 6 months ago, and you see a tumbleweed rolling across it. You know what I mean? It was nothing. So now they're really active, and it's a good way to get the fans excited for basketball again, and it makes me really happy to see that.
Yeah, especially Coach. I think his name is it Pedden? Is it Pedden or Peden?
Peden, Coach Peden.
Peden, yeah, he's probably the most active on there. Schrage, I got to say, is also really active on there. But it's great to see all the coaches understanding that you got to reach the youth of today, and not even just recruiting, but fans. And you got to get the fans excited. And the fact that just posting a picture, hey, I was with Greg Oden today, or hey, I met with the alumni today, is actually huge to say, hey, look, our coach is actually working. He's active. Back then, the day, I mean, I'm not trying to, again, I hate bragging on Matta, but you kind of had to assume he was doing his job. But I love it when they kind of show us, like, hey, this is what I'm doing today. We're all over the place today. And it keeps my mind on basketball. I mean, as a fan, it's like, now I'm looking forward to October and November to watch Ohio State basketball.
Well, yeah, and when's the last time we talked about Ohio State basketball in July?
2007? I don't know.
Yeah. I honestly cannot remember, and that's the problem. And, you know, recently, the last few years, it seemed like, you know, I'd almost forget basketball season was coming around, and I'd flick a game on, and we'd be playing, you know, Ohio State would be playing some low-level team. I'd be like, oh, it's basketball season.
They'd be playing Walsh, their exhibition game.
Yeah.
Which I think last year they played Walsh and actually struggled with them, and I thought, well, this is going to be a fun season. Because
didn't we also lose a really low level team as well? I forgot.
Oh, the last couple of years we've been dropping them to lower level teams, and it's just when we lost to like Texas, not Texas A&M, it was like Texas Williamson Tech or whatever the heck it was, and I was like, how did we just lose that ball game? That should be a 30-point win, easy.
Used to be on 30 by halftime, and you know, and then you look at the schedule down the road, you see, we got UCLA, we got Virginia. This ought to be fun.
I think the only big time win they've had in the last couple of years was Kentucky. I couldn't even believe they won that game.
You know what? I didn't even watch that game because I figured we would get blown out in the first half. So I ended up getting a Twitter update after the game and about lost my mind that we had actually won that game. Not that it meant anything, but.
Well,
it was pretty crazy to see that.
The only thing it did is for me is it kind of gave me hope that maybe this team could develop. I don't know. Maybe it's a fluke, and it turned out to be a fluke. So whatever. But we lost that.
It was the biggest fluke of all time.
We lost that entire recruiting class anyway. But that being said, let me ask you, Keith. Now you're a reasonable fan. I always enjoy talking to you privately and on the show as well. What do you being reasonable? What would you expect this year for Coach Holtmann in his first year, even after noticing all the changes that are being made?
I have to think with the changes he's made and the players added to the roster, and you know, having the nutritionalist and being in better shape, and you know, learning to play defense better. I have to think that a reasonable expectation for this team would be 20 wins and a tournament bid. In March. I have to think that because, you know, you can't go any lower than we were, and the amount of change I've seen in such a quick period of time shows me that we can win games, at least 20, and I like the roster. I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't like the roster. I think we have enough talent to get in the tournament, and I think we have enough talent to win a game.
Mike, I think 20 wins is reasonable, but I don't think that's going to be enough to get into the tournament, in my opinion. Unless we win the Big Ten tournament, or else put on a really good showing in the Big Ten tournament. I think the NIT is very, very possible this year. And as much as I'd rather go to the NCAA tournament, I don't think 20 wins will be enough. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. That's just how I feel about it.
I was looking at 20 wins, as I don't think the Big Ten is going to be as competitive as it was. There's a lot of players that are gone. The recruiting classes, as you've seen, weren't as good as they've been in previous years. And I look at teams like Michigan State, who I feel like they're the 5 stars that they got kind of underachieved last year, and Purdue losing Caleb Swanigan, and I think 20 wins could do it in a down year for the Big Ten, but I mean that remains to be seen.
So what if he doesn't get to 20 wins? Are you going to be like some fans and you're going to jump off the bandwagon and say Holtmann sucks, fire him?
Absolutely not. Look, Coach Holtmann is changing the program for the better, and if you're one of those fans who can't give the guy one season, to turn this program around, then you shouldn't be watching Ohio State basketball. It's going to take time, and there are going to be some struggles along the way, but as long as we're making improvements every week and, giving a consistent effort, and I can see some progress, then, even if he doesn't get to 20 wins, that's fine, because I know that 20 wins is coming. I know that 25 wins is coming. I know that Sweet 16 and the Final Four is down the road. You know what I mean? That's how much confidence I have in Chris Holtmann.
Yeah, I agree with you. If they don't reach 20 wins and they don't get or if they just make the NIT or whatever, or if they miss the tournament, I have 3 years, in my opinion, unconditional support for the guy, because I think it's going to take about 3 years to really start seeing the fruits of the labor, in my opinion. But not to say we can't have some success along the way, but I think in 3 years the program's, if this guy is what I believe he can be, I think the program could be at a level to where they're a threat to make the Final Four.
Absolutely. I mean, you and I have talked about this before. You better jump on the Holtmann train now, because it's leaving the station, and by the time you jump on, I'm going to be calling you a bandwagon fan. So
exactly, I completely agree. So I agree with Keith. Give the guy some time, please. If we lose a game in September or in November in the out of conference schedule, please don't freak out. Which we will. We will lose some games. I'm playing North Carolina. I'm not expecting to win that one.
But I could actually see him pulling off an upset. I honestly could. Whether we play Gonzaga or North Carolina in that tournament in Portland, I could see. That's what he did at Butler. He was really, really good at upsetting teams. So, hopefully, maybe if he doesn't get to 20 wins, he can put Gonzaga on their butt one time.
Yeah, I agree. I think we can beat somebody like Clemson for sure. I mean, I know it's going to be on the road, but at the same time, at least I think it's on the road. I don't.
No, actually, that's going to be a home game.
Oh, if it's a home game, okay. Well, hopefully the the Nut House shows out then. And but that being said, I think he could pull off an upset of Clemson and beat them. I think he can beat a Gonzaga. That's going to be tough, but he can do it. North Carolina, I think that's even possible. That being said, if they don't beat those teams, I'm not going to freak out. I think that's what I'm kind of getting at.
Well, you just can't. I mean, if you're any kind of logical sports fan in a year, and I'm not going to say we're rebuilding, because we're rebuilding, our trajectory is upward. So, in this case, he's rebuilding, but it's, we're approaching a better future. So, I think that this team is going to be better than last year's team. And if it's as good or better than last year's team, really, I mean, that's all you can ask for in year one with a guy who had a month to recruit in 2017 recruiting class.
Agreed completely, man. Well, Keith, it's been a lot of fun, man. I appreciate you coming on and talking some Ohio State hoops with me, because not many people will.
Hey, absolutely. I'm really happy you had me on, and I can't wait to talk more about it once the season gets here. Oh,
yeah, you come on anytime you want. You got an ongoing invitation anytime you want, buddy.
All right. Thank you very much, buddy.
Take care, buddy. And that's been our show, everybody. We're talking about Ohio State hoops today. Thank you, Keith, for coming on. And God bless you all, and go Bucks.